Prior to every meeting, we allow to members of the public or the council who would like to speak in public time to have the opportunity to speak now. So, is there anybody who would like to speak in public speaking time? Or are we happy to move on?
Mr. Chairman, do you wish Mr. Green to speak during public speaking time, or are you going to consider that when the item is on the agenda?
We normally do that on the agenda, then when I open it up to the councillors to ask questions, then we'll ask Mr. Green to step outside while we discuss matters, and then we invite the winning candidate back in to... Okay, so we'll come back here. We'll introduce ourselves to you at the time as well, so make it easy for you. Okay? Recording of the public meeting. As we know, we're allowed to record a meeting. If anybody would like to record it, have you got the facility to do it? Or we're happy with the camera at the end? Yeah, thank you very much. Items to be heard in private session. Has anybody got any items that would like to go in private session? We're all happy with the idea? Anything general? No. Okay, thank you. Apologies and reasons for absence. We've had a list tonight. The only one I'd like to discuss is Councillor Dalton. He's had an operation. I'm not too sure how long he's going to be off. Can we consider giving him a dispensation if required? Are we okay with that? But are we all happy with all the reasons for apologies? Okay, can we do that?
And just to say, Councillor Bastard as well, Publications and Communications Committee did recommend that dispensation be given to Councillor Bastard for 6 months.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can we please note that the swing councillors have not appeared yet and have not apologised?
Chair.
Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, I can't remember, but when someone receives a dispensation, do they get removed from the quorum number?
I was just debating this with Rich earlier, and I think I couldn't find a definitive answer in the time I had to look. But I suspect they do.
Perhaps
Yeah.
if it could just be looked into so that we
Yes.
don't risk more committees being in court as a consequence.
Yeah. I think what we normally do is they come off the list, so they're not they're not active.
Yeah.
So obviously, if there's a meeting where they're supposed to be going to, they're not active, so they don't count on the numbers. If that helps.
Yes. So some of those people who currently have dispensations have asked to remain on the circulation list, so they still want to receive the paperwork. So.
Which one is the water's bit?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to mention about the agenda numbers? Sorry,
Yes, can I just apologise to council because I got the numbering completely wrong. The number should start at 57, I think it is. It is 57. So I will correct that when I write the minutes so that we've got a sequential list of minutes from one meeting to another. Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, receipt of written declaration of preliminary interest or that?
Yes, so we the Service Provision Committee on the 20th of September received a revised DPI from Councillor East, and that's for noting here now.
Are we going to know that then? Yeah, thank you. Declarations of interest in the agenda items. So we see declarations of interest from councillors in the agenda items, and to receive declarations of interest of officers in the agenda items. Have we got any?
Yeah.
Councillor East?
To do with the library, I am a trustee of Friends of Holme Library, and I think there is a referral back to a service provision meeting via grant to Holme Youth, and I'm involved with Holme Youth as well. So.
Second one. No, it's probably Councillor Dixon. Do you want to be able to come tonight, so?
No, it's not. No, I'm not doing it.
Are Have we got an apology or?
He hasn't sent one, so
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Okay. Minutes of the council meetings. To approve minutes of the full council meeting held on the 12th of July 2022, number 2223 to 2020.
Yeah, gosh, Mr. O'Donnell. I think that's where my numbering all started to go badly wrong. So
That's all.
apologies for that. But
Tonight, we just,
it's 31 to 56.
Yeah.
Right.
if we approve just the minutes, and then the numbers will get changed later, instead of trying to, so, has anybody got any queries on that for the council meeting? Councillor?
Yeah, sorry, I think the food festival, this is item, it's 22255, Chairman's under Chairman's report. I think the date was Saturday 17th of September, not 16th.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend.
No,
Oh, no.
kind of,
The second one, which is again to do with the same minute, the Chairman's report. The lighting of the beacon, on Cliff Wreck, the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, it mentions bagpipe recital, but actually the major music event was the Head Edge Band, which has been playing there since 1919. So I think a good idea, particularly as they received a grant was given towards the funding of that event.
Head Edge Band.
Head Edge Band.
Councillor Holme?
Yeah, it was just to raise, which I've already raised with the part to be fair, but item 43, section about compose statute, it's just, it should say Holme, sorry, it should say Home Firth Business Association, not Holme.
Yes.
Sorry,
I'll make that amendment.
Who was all we happy to approve? Can we have a show of hands, please? Well, sir. Thank you very much. Standing committees. To approve the minutes of the staffing committee. Who's the chair of the staffing, please? Michael. So he's not here tonight, so I'll ask for any comments on any of the chairmans. Are we happy to approve these minutes? Yeah, we happy to approve. All in favour? Thank you. Planning?
Can I ask you, please, to note the minutes of the planning committee held on the 15th of August, which have already been approved at planning committee on the 26th of September.
All in favour? Thank you. Finance and management.
And I ask for council to note the minutes of the F&M meeting on the 22nd of August, number 222339 to 222358.
All in favour? Thank you. Pubs and comms?
Can I ask the council to approve the minutes of publication and communication committee?
All in favour? Thank you. Planning committee? Oh, service provision, sorry. Not leaving you out.
Okay, I'd like to ask the council to approve the minutes of the Service Provision Committee meeting held on the 20th of September 2022, numbered 222323 to 222345. I think there was something that Doug's and I kind of noticed that it was for a grant for Holme Firth Christmas.
The Christmas lights, yeah.
And I think it said to consider,
Yeah.
and I think it should have been approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We approved both sets of lights on that.
Yeah. So, with that amendment in mind, are we happy to approve those?
Councillor Blackett?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that in terms of the Christmas trees, the cut Christmas trees, which is handy to have in the list of cut Christmas trees for this year, I I noticed schools was omitted, so if we could insert schools, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I am. Are we all okay with those amendments and the minutes?
All in favour? Thank you. Plan committee.
Can I ask the council please to approve the minutes of the planning committee for the meeting held on the 26th of September, please.
All in favour? Thank you. And finally, finance and management.
I wasn't there, Doug.
Yeah, I stood in because Pat was unfortunately delayed due to travel issues. So I can ask the committee to approve the minutes. The Finance Management Committee, which was held on the 28th of September, as numbered on the agenda.
All in favour? Thank you very much. Right. Matters reserved for full council. Tribute and a minute's silence to mark the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. On the 1st and 8th of September, Her Majesty passed away peacefully at Balmoral, having reigned for 70 years. The Holme Valley Parish Council followed the Operation London Bridge protocol, with a book of condolence being available at the Civic Club and a letter of condolence being sent to Her Majesty's King Charles III, His Majesty, sorry, I don't hate myself, and the flag was half-mast. Scheduled meetings were postponed and rearranged as necessary to allow for a 9-day period of national mourning. Councillors may wish to share their personal tributes to the late Queen, followed by a minute silence to show council respect for the Queen's life service. Jen, thank you for stepping up. You went beyond what you needed to do, and I think Mary himself will, appreciate for what you do. To let you know, she worked all Friday. She organised the flowers. She organised visits. She stepped up, and I think, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Rescheduling the whole of the autumn meeting and everything.
Yeah, so I mean, I know it's, she's had to put herself out, and we'll arrange sometimes so you can get yourself back together, back to the schedule, but it was very appreciated, and I think most councillors, do appreciate what you're doing here, and well done. And yourself, what you do work out.
Thank you.
Okay, so would anybody like to share any personal stories or anything like that with the Queen? Oh, sorry, about the Queen. Oh. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then can I ask you all to stand, and we'll give you 9 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item, following disqualification of councillor for himself of the attendance, a notice was published in line with the allegations regarding the holding of a by-election. As 15 residents did not request an election by the recite date, the process of the co-option is now unfolded. You notice we have a gentleman at the end.
Good evening.
Would you like to introduce yourself? We'll give you 3 minutes to talk, and then at the end, I'll give your councillors an opportunity to ask you a question. Can I ask that you'll ask one question, and we'll start from this end and work his way around, so it doesn't get confusing who's asked and who hasn't. So, would you like to stand and introduce yourself?
Right, I'm Chris Green. I came to the Holme Valley in 1965, age 1, when my mum and dad moved to a new build at Town and Avenue, Bulldale. Went to Bulldale Juniors, which is now the village hall. It was one of the last year there. That was the last year there. Went a bit to Holme High School. My parents were teachers at Holme High School, so they moved me to Holme, so they could take me there. Went away to uni, did a psychology degree, joined the West Yorkshire Police, had 30 years service in West Yorkshire Police in Bradford, places like Buttershaw and West Bowling, if anybody knows them. A little bit different to the Holme Valley, but I was a community body most of my service, so worked closely with both city councillors and parish councillors in those areas. I retired 6 years ago now. Since then I've done bits of volunteering. I volunteer with Greencliff Cemetery Volunteers in Holme. So I was studying about 3 years ago when you kindly gave us a community award. Still do that. I was cutting the grass for about 3 hours this afternoon. In April this year I became a trustee of River Home Connections charity. I don't know if you're aware of them. Good. I'm a member of the Green Party. It was the Green Party who suggested I might want to put myself forward for this. For the last 2 years I've been on their National Discipline and Complaints Committee, investigating quite interesting things, quite depressing things sometimes. A 2-year term for that comes up, well, it ends in November. I'm just not sure whether I'm going to stand again. I've got 2 kids. One lives in a new building at Meltham, the other one's waiting for it to be completed in Meltham. My son works for Yorkshire Wildlife Trust based at Sturley Farm. My daughter's a physio with Ocala. My wife was a nurse with Ocala. She worked at Home Valley Memorial for quite a lot at the end of her career. So I've got a history of being involved with the Home Valley, and I've got a future that looks set to be in the Home Valley. Geographically, I live in the Home Valley at Taylor Hill, although politically it's outside of your area. So yeah, if you think any of my experiences would benefit and assist your team, then I'm keen to join.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, as I said, I'll open it to the councillors to answer questions. I'll start with Councillor Bellamy and work across.
Question of you.
Sorry, yes?
If you don't live in the valley, in the parish, or work in the parish, are you allowed to stand as a councillor?
I think there's about 6 different criteria, so I need to go and have a look at them.
We can look it up when we ask the gentleman to step out. Okay.
Sorry, it's a technicality, but it's quite important.
I was in the business of law and order for 30 years when I break the rules.
We'll talk about that. Okay, so Councillor Bellamy, would you like to ask a question?
Well, I was just going to say what Councillor Collins
Yeah, but we need to ask a question to the gentleman, not to us.
With everything you're doing now, you do think you'll be able to put, commitment in?
Yeah, I'm sure. I was very busy throughout my career working in Bradford, and yeah, I've got spare time. I mean, a lot of the last 4 years was supporting my elderly disabled father. He's no longer with us, so yeah, I'm keen to get stuck in and do work with the council if you want me.
Okay, Councillor Hodgson, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I'd just be interested to know why you think you'd like to be a parish councillor. What is it about being a parish councillor that appeals?
Well, I'm interested in community. I'm interested in the environment. I'd like to contribute on those grounds.
Councillor East?
What do you think you'd like to achieve by being a parish councillor?
Good question. I don't know enough about the business of the parish council. I would have to hold my hands up and say that.
But sort of bigger picture sort of question.
Well, I think the Holme Valley is a fantastic place. I mean, it attracts talent. I know people who come to live in here, working in Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds. They're attracted to the community and to this kind of natural environment, and I'd like that to continue to be the case. I'd like the valley to thrive. I haven't moved away far.
Councillor Dixon?
Thank you.
I'm okay, thanks.
Good. Councillor Greaves?
I think we just need to check the eligibility criteria. But I
Sorry?
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but as well as full council, we've got various other committees. We've got the climate change, a lot of new work going on. We've got planning, which is extensive portfolio and a lot more meetings, service provision. Give out a lot of grants to organisations, and Holme Library and the Civic. Well, Holme Library is about to come out and the Civic. So we've got quite a few other things, including the land charity that we're associated with. And some of us sit as trustees on this building management committee as well. So is there any, I don't know if you had a chance to get your head around the myriad of meetings that we have, but is there any other topics that you're particularly interested in out of that list, really?
I think, well, on the spot, I think planning and the environment would be really interesting.
Okay. You clearly got an interest in that from the voluntary work you do.
Yeah.
So, thanks for coming.
Okay, Councillor Wilson?
I think Councillor Carey's
Okay.
got in first.
Yeah, Councillor Points?
No, subject to you being technically allowed.
Yeah.
On that question.
No, look forward to you hopefully joining.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No, no question.
Okay, at this time I'd ask you just to step outside, or we'll just have a quick discussion, and then
Yeah.
we'll invite back in.
Fine, thank you.
Okay?
See you in a bit, hopefully.
We've got 2 minutes, so we'll go later. Councillor Collins brought up a good question there. Mary's just checked the rules, and it's within a 3-mile area of Holme Valley.
So take bills
So,
within 3 miles, isn't it?
Really?
You must live,
Yeah.
it's one of the criteria for
As
the
a
last
profile.
6 months. There are several
Well.
criteria, but the last one is you must live within 3 miles of the Holme Valley.
oh, he's within 3
It's
miles.
within
So,
3
yeah,
miles.
so is all
Yeah.
right, so would anybody else like to discuss the matter? Or would we like to go straight to a vote?
I was just going to say, it's clearly, whether or not that was a rule or not, he's doing unpaid work in the valley, if not paid work in the valley anyway, isn't he? So he's clearly keeping his links, and he's got, I've got no
He's
issues.
got solid connections as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He sounds very good to me.
And we've also got to appreciate that the time factor is he's only got just over 6 months to serve as a parish councillor anyway, so it could be a good stepping stone for him to see if he likes it, so if he wants to stand again for the next election.
Yeah.
So I would like to propose that we accept his candidacy. Do we have a seconder? I think that's... Councillor Chris, can I give you, ask you to give him a shot, please?
Should we all vote now?
Now that we've all seconded it, so we vote for him as
We
well.
always formally vote.
Yeah.
Can we make a formal vote on that? We're all in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Chris. Does he decide anything now? What do we want to do?
You do it at the end of the meeting, but
We allow it to go into committees straight away.
That sort of flipping on.
I think we have to approve it.
Online, something, you know.
Otherwise I've missed the next.
Yes,
we have
yeah,
problem
it makes
before.
sense at that time, yes.
Right.
Because you've got to consider any further actions regarding councillor vacancies. I'm going to
Yeah,
talk about.
that's the next bit, yeah.
I think you should have a motion to about approving any committee membership.
Yeah.
Based
Right.
on that.
Congratulations, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Before we start, just to give you an idea, if I can ask all councillors to introduce yourself and the wards, then we'll just go some nitty-gritty with you. So, Councillor Bellamy.
I'm Councillor Bellamy, and I represent the Upper Holme Valley.
Nice to meet you, Kath.
You too.
Hi, I'm Councillor Rachel Holme, represent Overford Central.
I am Councillor Sean East. I represent the Holme West ward.
Councillor Tom Dixon, I represent the Hepworth ward.
Yeah, Councillor Charles Greaves, and I cover Holme West.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about New England.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Doug Sky, and I represent Upperthorne, although I actually live in the other side of the valley, over in Cliff.
Councillor Andy Wilson, I'm also Upperthorne, represent Upperthorne. I'm something coming in there. I think I'm doing here 48 years, so nearly expected.
No, no.
Central as well.
Right.
I'm Mary Blacker, I'm Vice Chair of the Council this year. I represent schools, but I'm also Chair of Planning, and it is a very busy committee, and we're really keen to get new members onto planning, so I'm very glad to hear what you said.
Yeah, good pitch.
I'm Jason Brook, Bulldale. I'm the chair of the Parish Council. As Mary just subtly put in there, we do have some vacancies for some committees. We have finance and management, pubs and commons, planning. Oh, this one. What's your service provision? And also we have the climate emergency council, hopefully.
Shouldn't Jen and Rich introduce themselves as well while we're doing?
Sorry?
Shouldn't Jen and Rich introduce themselves while we're?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry.
I'm Jen McIntosh, I'm the clerk, so
Yeah, we spoke on the phone. Yeah.
indeed.
Rich Miguel, I'm the responsible finance officer and deputy clerk. So, as I said, I've just mentioned some of the committees there. Would you be interested in joining them?
Well, I said planning, yeah, I'm interested in planning. Did you say pubs?
Publications.
Communications.
No, I would have been interested in pubs. I ran a pub, as a community bobby in Bradford, I ran a pub watch scheme for quite a while and I was interested, but and obviously I've got a background in dealing with issues there. But yeah, no, I think
That's
planning
nearly enough.
You're on.
What you could do, which some councillors do, is go to a meeting of all of them,
Yeah,
as much as you can fit in. Go
Yeah.
to the next ones you can go to and then decide.
that sounds like a really good suggestion, yeah.
It'd be great to see you on the Climate Emergency Committee as
Yeah.
a Green Party person.
Yeah.
So, do we need to do anything from that?
Can I propose that we offer Councillor Green the opportunity to review the list of committees and what they cover in conjunction with the clerk, and we approve the principle that he can join any of those committees that he wishes so to do that currently have spaces?
Yeah.
Because I think they pretty much all have spaces.
Yes, I think.
But I don't think, I mean, obviously you'll need to look at your diary to see whether
Yeah.
you're available as well. But
And how many committees do people tend to sit on?
depends how involved you wish to be.
Right.
Some do them all, some only do one or two, so it's up to yourself.
And some of them are time consuming. You should be aware that planning is quite time consuming.
Yeah.
True, it's true. Pubs and cones is great, it's the best one of the lot.
Yes, yes.
I only go 4 times a year.
And finance and management sounds heavy, but it isn't as time consuming as some of the others.
Right.
But I think the clerk will be able to give you detail on the frequency, but also what things they cover.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be useful to understand.
I like the idea of sitting in on as many as I can and
Yeah.
making my mind up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Don't be shy in joining in the conversations tonight and asking questions. We quite welcome it. A new face and new opinions is always welcomed. So please join in. So welcome and we move on.
Can I just say, at the end, there's the acceptance of office declaration
Mhm.
for you to sign.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
make sure we do that at the end. Lovely.
Okay, Jim, so do the next bit.
Yes, so in terms of any further actions regarding councillor vacancies, as I emailed out to everyone earlier today, we do have a casual vacancy for Holme Central. I'm awaiting the formal notification from Kirk regarding this, which I'm expecting to receive tomorrow, at which point we then advertise the vacancy for the requisite period. So just to let everyone know, that's a current situation.
And just in case you don't know, it's Councillor Ben Lockley. Thank you very much. Asset transfer of Holme Library.
You don't need to go through
Do we?
So, the asset transfer has now progressed to the signing of agreed documents. Once the documents which are listed below are signed as specified, which they will be at the end of this meeting by Councillor Brooke and Councillor Blacker, they will be returned tomorrow to the council solicitor. A date can then be fixed for the asset transfer to formally take place. agreement with Kirklees and Friends of Holme Library. So that's how the actual date for the asset transfer is decided. So the documents for consideration are as follows, and I do have to read all of this out, I'm afraid. TP1, which is the document to transfer the library to Holme Valley Parish Council, must be executed by affixing the common seal of HVP in the presence of HVPC, in the presence of two authorised signatories. Now, just to say, Holme Valley Parish Council does not have a common seal, and what we do instead is the authorised signatories attach a legal seal to their signature as they sign. So that is what we will do at the end of the meeting. TP1 plan. This shows the extent of the property to be transferred to Holme Valley Parish Council, edged in red. And we again attach the seal to that. The hire agreement, number 3, again, that is signed and sealed. Number 4, the hosting agreement, which is signed and sealed. Number 5, the schedule to the hosting agreement, which sets out the cleaning services to be provided by Kirklees Council. And that will be annexed to the hosting agreement on completion. Number 6.
Can I ask a question about that?
Could I just finish reading them out first? Thank you. Number 6, the hosting agreement plan. And again, that is signed and sealed. Number 7, the lease to Friends of Holme Library, which is signed and sealed. 8, which you'll have seen in the papers, the schedule of conditions. So these are the pictures which show the condition of the library now, and those will be annexed to the lease. Friends of Holme Library will not be liable to put the property into any better state of repair or condition than is evidenced in the schedule of condition attached. At this moment in time, we don't date anything. It will be for the two councillors to sign and then affix the seals.
Would anybody like to ask me a question?
The cleaner, will Kirklees continue to pay for the cleaner ad infinitum?
I can't answer for ad infinitum. Certainly, as the documents make clear, that's a situation, that they are signing up to.
As long as there is a library service in that building, they are organising the cleaner.
Exactly.
Right, thank you.
Can I ask a-
Councillor Parish?
So is that how they, because at one point they were wanting to cheaper transfer the cleaner over, weren't they? So in the negotiations, is that the,
That's how they all
that's the
take it.
solution?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems a much better solution. Different sort of process.
Anybody else? Councillor Holme?
It's not really a question, it's just a comment. I just want to thank all the people on the council who've worked on the Friends of Holme Library. I found how much effort has gone into getting this to this point, because it's taken an awfully long time. And I think we looked through the documents, are really, really comprehensive, and looks really good, really.
Both clerks, both Jen and Liz before her.
I think it's a really big thing for the council to, obviously, as you mentioned, it's a little number of years ago now, and to take on Holme Library is really key decision of the council. I think very positive.
Can we pass, will you be able to pass on those congratulations to more?
I will not speak when I next speak to Friends of Holme Library.
Yeah.
I'll express our thanks to their hard work over the last 5 or 6 years, something like that. Certainly 5. Certainly the first meeting I attended was 5 years ago. I think it was Catherine's name. 2017, maybe something like that.
It was a year after I was chair, so I think Councillor Coppell was chair at the time, when it started. So,
I don't know whether this is the right time to raise this, but it seems to me a good idea if we do, as we do with the civic, have a parish councillor as a trustee of Holme Library.
I think we've asked for, haven't we?
Yes, I think we. That's going to be one of the things that.
I mean, in addition to Sean, who's one not as a parish councillor, he's you're as an individual, aren't you?
No, I think I am there by dint of my being a parish councillor.
Oh, right.
So, but when I have been at trustee meetings, we have discussed before that maybe taking on an additional trustee would be a good way to ensure that our cooperation and working together continues as well as it has been.
Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe having two, like we have with Civic Hall. So in case if one person doesn't attend the meeting, another person does, and then one can report, just to report back to the council on the progress and good communication as well.
I think we need to, at the moment, Councillor Macy's said that, what we need to do is just get it all finished before we start.
Absolutely.
It could be like the next term, so let's just make sure it's all done and dusted before we.
I don't have any doubt that the trustees of
Councillor.
Can I also suggest that when it is done and dusted, sealed and everything, that we have a full council meeting there as soon as possible?
Quite happy to do that, because we can have the official hanging over the key ceremony at the same time. Which we did for this one 6 years ago, so yes, that would be a good idea. If that's
And they
possible.
say they won't charge us.
Yeah. I don't know if you're done with that, Tom. Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Holme.
Related point really, what's the communication plan? Because I'm assuming certainly the Friends of Holme will be really keen to tell people. So are we all going to line things up almost embargo it so we can go live at the same time? Because otherwise the rumour mill will be going around London quite quickly anyway, won't it? Because there's a lot of people involved, you'll know.
There will be a proper press release. When we did it here, we had a proper press release, and I presume the Parish Council will do a proper press release with Holme Library at the same time. So
they're aiming to have a sort of opening ceremony, but they don't know quite when, because they don't know who they'll be able to get and things like that. So it may not be possible to coordinate everything in one day.
Friends of Holme Library having a meeting, trustees having a meeting on Wednesday to do a similar thing to what we're doing now, so I'm sure, I guess it's probably all dependent on Kirk's council doing their bit as well, as it's got to have that kind of announcement really. Sure, it's probably I don't know whether or not it's going around as a rumour mill in Holme, whether or not, what the Parish Council's going to be. Not sure.
yeah, Councillor Holme.
Just in response to publications point, I guess. I think that, to be fair, it's been going around on the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So it's more a case of making sure we've got photos and we get it in the Examiner and all those things, because it should be picked up on that basis. But there were two things I just wanted to ask about. One was obviously we were going to do a plaque, which I think was already approved a while ago, but obviously I presume we have the date of the formal transfer. So I'm assuming that can happen or can be ordered, because we probably already have the authority for that. But no, just looking to the clerk team to clarify that. The other oh yes, the monies that they get upon transfer, do we have to approve anything, or is that already ready, so that when Friends of Holme Library take it on, because we promised them an annual sum, but also a sum of money when they start, as I recall.
I believe as it is, they were approved at the last council meeting.
Okay.
Might be even the one before that.
It was approved to spend, was it? It's been earmarked for ages. Has it been approved to spend?
They've got money in the budget as well as the amount.
Right.
I just wondered if it can already go to them, or whether there's that whole authorisation of the money that's already there.
Maybe you could propose that we
Yeah.
do in case we haven't.
Yes.
So I propose we release the full council authorises the release of any monies previously agreed, so that there's no delay to them receiving that money if it's, because we might find it's not signed within.
Before the next meeting.
I second that.
All in favour, please show hands. Thank you. Right. And then he says to consider any other actions. So, any other actions we want to do before we move on?
Council may want to consider holding the meeting scheduled for 12th of December in Holme Library.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Report from the Grants Working Party.
Yes, we're making progress on updating. There are several areas. One is current applications. One is who we, in general, want to give grants to, or perhaps a shorter list don't want to give grants to.
Yes.
And then all the processes, essentially. And we've made good progress on the grants application form. We're very close to agreeing one, which is much simplified and much more up to date. We've agreed a list of exclusions, which I'd like all of you to hear and agree to so that we can progress. Because we're moving on now to processes. Things like, I'll come back to this list of exclusions in a minute, but things like which of our regular people could actually have a contract, and whether the contracts we have now are sufficiently rigorous and set up in terms of aims and objectives, and at looking at whether they're fulfilled and how we assess that. And given that we're looking at it all, let's look at it all and get it all. We're going to talk to lawyers about the nature of the contract. So the Phoenix Centre was one that sprung to mind about being added to the contract list. And the list of exclusions we wanted to have, let me get them up on my computer. It's relatively short, but I'd better get it accurate. And they were. And I mean, there can always be special exceptions and things, we all know that. This is a general principle. One is places of worship or religious bodies where the activity is for the furtherance of a religion or religious activity. Do you want me to do them one at a time or go through the whole list?
One at a time.
Right, that's the first one. Is anybody bothered? Do people agree with that? Not agree with it?
So that doesn't exclude a church then having a grant for something that's not connected to religion.
Correct.
So
If they've got a church hall that's used by children's clubs and all sort, you know, that sort of thing.
That's not true.
Yeah,
No,
it's
you
tricky than that.
can't. No, you can't.
Oh, sorry.
No. You can't pay any money to churches, even if it's a church building. It's part of the church's property, so we can't pay a grant to it. It's a 19th century legislation.
We can fund activity in the church. We can, as I understand it, we can give a revenue grant for activity.
If they opened a food bank, we could
anything
give
that's
them
nailed to the wall and becomes part of the church structure. It's a parish rule, it's not a local rule.
Yeah, or it could be, say we were giving some equipment to, you know, like Cafe 100 who use a church building, but if they have equipment that's not nailed down, that's available. It's theirs.
or a food bank.
It's not
or
the
something like
churches,
that, yeah.
but if it was a toilet, which they applied for this time, we had to say we can't fund a church property, so they applied for something else.
Are we okay on churches then? Schools. In general, we don't give to schools. We don't want to give for activities or projects previously provided by statutory funds. For trips, and we have already given for some trips, but we felt that we needed to agree whether we're giving to all of them or stopping them, because every school in the valley could be asking. And for projects or activities which benefit only the school and its children and not the wider community. So again, if they were doing stuff in the playground or in the hall or whatever that was for the wider community, there would be ways we could support it. But are people okay with that? Individuals or individuals within a group, e.g. one scout going to a jamboree. Now we have finance and management, in my absence, have just given money to the scouts going to a jamboree, which if we agree this, we won't be able to do ever again.
But sorry, Chair, the request that was for this particular one was 5 scouts, so it was a group, not an individual. I think the spirit of this, because I drafted it.
Individual or individuals within a group? I'm sorry.
This is to move up. Can I just stop you, Councillor Carroll there? What Councillor Collins is saying now is what this new is, not what's happened. So can we concentrate on what the new is, not the old is?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm also told by a scout leader that they're cheeky doing it this way, because they're not really supposed to raise their money like this. But
Councillor Dixon, last comment on that.
Yeah, we've given money to the jamborees in the past since I've been on the council. It's kind of like we're doing it, giving money towards the scout group rather than the individuals, and then it's putting towards the pot towards their funding. And it's because they're going out there and representing the Holme Valley as a whole. So it's not like we're giving money for them to go on a holiday or something like that. They're going out there and representing the Holme Valley by doing this. So it's a bit different, I think, rather than giving. And I know what you mean. We shouldn't be giving money to individuals making trips and doing things like that. And I can agree with that, but it's kind of it's a little bit different.
Can we ask the rookie committee to look at that and maybe change the wording?
Well, no, we've discussed this in and out and backwards, so you can tell us to change it or you can accept it. I mean, but we are aware that Scouts do good stuff, but it follows on because the next point is fundraising, and it's quite similar to fundraising.
Councillor Holme?
I think it's fine going with what the grants working party has proposed, because I think there are other ways in which the Scouts could secure funding, but it wouldn't be for a jamboree, like we've given them money towards a new awning, or we've given money towards equipment. So it's not that we're not supporting the Scouts, it's the fact that it's about individuals having, it is trips in the end, regardless who they represent, because you could say lots of groups represent, high school students would represent the school and the valley.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to railroad this. If people feel strongly that it should be allowed, then we're here. That's why I brought this to this meeting, so we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sell gold, Sarah. Sell gold.
What's that?
Oh,
It's somebody who lives in Portugal.
Can we, okay, just excuse that, okay? Councillor Thomas?
do we need to have a vote on that?
No, if anybody wants to change it, we'll send the end for the list and...
Okay. The next one was fundraising, that although there are many worthy fundraising activities and are often for the valley, for people in the valley and everything, it's our feeling that we just can't. You can't draw the line between one bit of fundraising and another, and that that's not really what we're for. We're not here to do we're not here to help fundraisers. We're here to help organisations and activities. So we wanted, now again, there could be exceptions to this. We don't know what's going to crop up tomorrow. If there were a terrible disaster in the valley, it would be a thing we would consider. But our feeling is that fundraising is not really part of the grant process. Shouldn't really be given. We've turned down a couple. There have been a few where they've been fundraising. We haven't given at F&M.
So, Councillor Curry?
I think the point is here, we'd rather fund the end activity than fund the cost of, because somebody could fundraise for the church roof, which we're not allowed to fund the church roof anyway, so why would we fund but equally, somebody could be doing a black tie ball and they could actually lose money on it. So we'd rather know what the good cause was and that come forward as a grant than fund a speculative activity, if that makes sense. So it's not that we don't wish everybody every success with any fundraising events, it's just that we'd effectively be underwriting them, and I don't think that's appropriate. We didn't think that was an appropriate use of our funds.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask one thing, which is I may be misremembering this, but I thought as a council we gave I know we gave a contribution to Art Week, I think, and isn't that technically a fundraising?
Well, we give a £20 standing order to Art Week every year, but it's our subscription basically.
Okay.
I think it's
Okay,
quite
that's
an
quite a
important
difference.
organisation.
Yeah, we don't give them grants.
Thank you. Councillor Collins?
And of course, there may be things that we are saying that we don't want to do anymore, that we have done in the past, school trips, for instance. And then the one that's fraught with complication is there are certain community interest companies that we wouldn't want to support, and there are some that we're perfectly happy with, but there's the kinds that we would not. We've got a list of the CICs we would wish to support, the sort of CIC. Only CICs with a committee or a board of trustees or a management board will be considered. So not individuals doing however worthy activities with young mums or whatever. only CICs who can submit a constitution or structure, and only applications which detail how the grant will be spent.
So are you saying that? So are you saying then that informal groups are not able to apply for grants?
We were careful. We said committee or board of trustees or management board. Now, whether they call their group of people who run it a management board, who knows? But if they have a group of people who run it and are on a bit of paper, that would be fine. So it could be a group of mums who've organised.
Yeah, I mean, what you're worried about is basically people who are getting grants to basically pay themselves a wage, isn't it? This is the issue.
That's what we want
I'm just
to
concerned
avoid.
about things because in terms of the last cycle of grants, a lot of them were unregistered groups, basically like sports clubs. There weren't charities, there weren't CIC. So I just want to make sure that we're not excluding. You know.
They've normally got constitution.
Okay, Councillor Blocker first, then
I mean,
Councillor
this exclusion is purely like CICs, isn't it? So they do have, they do have a formal legal entity, but is it just exactly as you've just said, that some of them seem to be set up to then create business and pay themselves a wage, and we feel we should not be funding that. So hence the proviso that there has some kind of management board, some kind of community involvement. It is a difficult.
We'll never be able to pin it down completely, I think. Every now and then there'll be an exception that comes up where we all think, well, clearly this is the sort of thing we should give.
It's just, I mean, the difficulty with these things is the wording's got to be very precise, isn't it? And whether, I'm just worried that we might end up excluding things that we don't want to exclude. Councillor Dixon?
I kind of interpret it as in, it sounds similar to what we already have in place, where we expect groups to have a constitution or a kind of bank account and a bit formalised. And that's what we normally have with the grants that we do give out, but I do get what Rich is saying as well. I can think of maybe a couple of examples where they're not quite, they might not quite fit the change to the criteria, the wording of it, but they are still very worthy groups which we might give money to. I'm just trying to think, I don't know how we'll organise all the groups out that we do give money to, because there is some non-named names which might not fall into it. Rich probably knows what I'm talking about.
I think what we're trying to resolve here, in my day job I'm working with voluntary groups across the rural area, and in the good old days there was basically, you could register as a business or you could register as a charity, or you could be an unincorporated group, which is what Rich said, or unregistered groups. Which obviously this is trying to drill into this new government structure called the Community Interest Company. Some basically operate as pure charities. Crossroads in Melton that do what fantastic work, or a CIC. There's other CICs locally that are basically, I think I overheard Councillor Hockley say, sole traders. They operate as sole traders. So everything they do, there's no volunteers involved. All the money that they get is spent on their wages. And it's trying to say that because why would we not fund that type of business and not the local butcher or any other trader? So it's trying to show that there's community management, so there's other volunteers involved in their activity, and that it's not purely an income budget for a wage for a single individual. So that's what we're trying to. It probably does need a little bit of work, but that's the thing we're trying to solve. And the reason I say that is because there's been a huge growth of them in this area, and a lot of them are struggling because they're very grant dependent, because they're trying to sell services to people and they haven't got a viable business, but they do operate as a sole trader effectively. So I think the spirit of it, to satisfy Richard's concerns, a group of well-minded people doing a lovely thing in the community, absolutely we would want to support that.
Councillor Collins?
Yeah, I think that's the list of exclusions. So if people are happy with that, we'd like really now to kind of get that formalised and then move on to the processes bit of it. As I say, we're nearly done with the applications, but the kind of setting of targets and then monitoring and all of that.
I'm quite happy to propose that we go ahead with those exclusions, but I would like the wording to be just discuss with Deputy Clerk to make sure we kind of close off
He's on,
any
he's on,
clarities on.
he's on the committee.
Okay. Particularly around the churches issue and the CICs issue, because it's really important that we have clarity that then when people look at the criteria when we get to the stage of the process, they know absolutely whether they apply or not, and there's no confusion also in the clerk team as to whether to advise them whether they.
And what we are all further suggesting is that the officer and the chair of the committee involved, so that'd be Jen and Sean and Rich and me, I think, and possibly the climate emergency committee as well, like whoever clerks that. They would originally agree the ones to be omitted, but at the meeting a list of what had been submitted and ruled out would be shown to the committee members. And if they wanted to scrutinise it further, they could, but essentially the clerk and the chair of that committee will essentially go through and say, no, that one isn't appropriate.
Okay, Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, just like to, it seems like a good amount of work that you guys have done, and it's good, thanks for the explanation of it all. And I think with things like this, it may be that once we implement the new grants procedure that it might need to go tweak here and there, but that's may how it be. It may be like if someone puts a grant application in, we might send them away and say, you don't quite fit our criteria at the moment, you need to do this first, and then the groups can go away and make the changes and then do these things, which would be good. So thanks for everything that the group's done, you put in some good work there, and the explanation, and I'd also like to second Rachel's suggestion.
And I think we'll be able to come back next time with our recommendations on all processes, and maybe a completed document, who knows, to finally agree, but it might be that comes the meeting after that one.
Okay, thank you very much. We've had a proposal, we've had a second day, and also personally I'd like to thank you as well for all the hard work of your team. It's very much appreciated. So can we show our hands to approve? All in favour there, so we'll move to ask you a question. Thank you very much. Right. This is now the change, this one again.
Shall I?
Yes, please.
So, adjustments have been made to the remaining meeting schedules for the council year 2022-23. Changes in the September and October dates were due to observing the national period of mourning resulting from the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. There's a further change to what is written there regarding the staffing committee meeting. That date has reverted back to the 17th of October to allow any staffing committee input into the budget setting process. An additional publications and communications committee meeting has been scheduled for 6:30 on Monday the 7th of February 2023, prior to the full council meeting, to allow for consideration of Community Champions Award for 2022-23. So in terms of the schedule that went out with the papers, a further version will be published following this meeting, and I will email it out to people.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon.
Just note it.
Okay. Councillor, you want to say anything at all? Okay. Are we okay to move on for that, yeah? Thank you, Jen, for your work there. Hepworth Playgroup and Preschool. On the 22nd of November 2021, the Finance and Management Committee awarded £5,000 to the Hepworth Playgroup and Preschool for a new service for their playground. The playground was not at the time able to start work on the service, and they've not called them on the money, so the Parish Council had the money to its earmarked reserves, earmarked 323 community assets over in the Holme Valley Thursday of 2022. When you finish this, Tom,
Yeah.
The playgroup has been in touch with the 4th of October 2022, saying that they are able to undertake work, and the playgroup would like to be paid the grant. Only the 4th Council could approve this payment from the earmarked reserves. Richard, or yourself?
I don't really need to say any more than that. Because it's coming from an earmarked reserve, only council can approve it, so it has to go to a vote here. But it was agreed at Finance and Management last year.
Okay. Anybody else to comment?
I just want to declare an interest, because my mother is she's a treasurer, or she works for a playgroup anyway, so I just want to declare an interest.
Thank you. Right, can we have a proposal? Councillor Holme, yeah, opposing that?
Proposed,
Seconder?
yeah.
Yeah, we've had a couple. All in favour? Okay, well, passed. Thank you very much. My report. Since the last meeting, I forgot to mention that I went to the Art Week downstairs and made a purchase. apparently I like to take pictures with some beers apparently. So I bought it. I went to the Meltham Civic Service a couple of weeks ago, which was a nice day. If you've not been to before, you meet at the Colt car park and you march to the church, to St Balafonia's on the road, and then we go for a bit of afternoon tea, which was a hot meat potato pie this year. So it was quite nice, meeting other councillors from other area and other chairs and theirs. This day, yeah that's right, yeah, I went to Melbourne, which is near Tottenham. For Hebden Bridge as Town Council, which was the mayor there. Which was nice.
Sorry.
It's okay. Which was quite nice. You're right there, Pat.
Just what?
No, I've got one to them. I'll just go and make a noise on the stairs.
So yeah, it was quite a good afternoon. It was nice to meet some councillors from the other side of the hill. My council obviously, so it was quite nice. This Friday I've got a function at the golf club with the Lions. I'll mention that now just in case I forget for the next meeting. We also have run a Christmas competition for some Christmas cards. You will see the results in future. We have got the pictures back if you want to. This in the office, I think they're only also like to look at the Jersey State entrance. But the winner's been chosen, but I will not tell you which one the winner is. Did you, any of you two do anything else? Would you like to comment on their reports?
I can't recall anything I did that was standing in for you, so.
Okay.
Since last meeting.
Okay. Mary did represent me at the King's other policy, didn't you?
Yes, and to reading the declaration.
Yes, so Mary represented the council on my behalf because obviously I was working at the time. So thank you for Mary for that.
And the civic service.
And the civic service. Yeah, so once again, thank you for that as well. As I work Sunday, so it was impossible for me to do that. Well, I think I was in Scotland that day as well. So that is it. Would anyone like to comment on that? I'll come just note it.
That's it.
Thanks very much. Right, Council's year-to-date expended budget 2022 to 23, including AMAC reserves.
Yeah, I just sort of point out a few things that probably need commenting upon, where we might be over budget or we'll definitely be over budget. We're probably going to be a little bit over budget on salaries. Both me and Jen got uplifts this year for passing our ILCA qualification. So as you can see, we're at 52%, 50% through the year. So we like to be a little bit over at the end of the year, so just be aware of that. Insurance, you can see we are a lot over. You'll remember all the faffing around with trying to get insurance for the Civic Hall at the start of this year, and we had to get a higher, we had to pitch for a much more expensive insurance. However, it is offset by money that we paid back by the Civic, which we haven't even given. It's £3,775.72. So we will only ultimately be a couple of, what is about £400 down, which is probably less than I expected, to be honest. However, whereas in the past I've kind of offset that against this minus figure, I've put it through as income this year. The reason being, looking at the lease, the money we get from the Civic is actually considered effectively as their rent to us. I know it's a bit messy, but we pay £10,000 to them to rent this room and the office, and then they pay us back the insurance as effectively they're paying us for the use of the building. So it's kind of income rather than, because I was putting it to as a minus payment. So you'll see that as income rather than as a minus payment on the record. I just wanted to make the point as well that our administration budget is going to be over as well. I'm not quite sure why we're so over. We did have we had 1 month where we had a really high photocopying bill, which I couldn't quite understand, but you know, it was about 225 quid, whereas normally sort of between 30 and 50. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but and the other thing, me and myself and Jen are sort of trying to make sure that we print in black and white rather than colour, because it's an amazing difference in price. It's about 10 times as much to print in colour as it is in black and white, and sometimes when you're just printing, you just kind of flick it out and don't pay much attention to whether you're painting it when you're doing it black and white or colour. Obviously, when we're printing out for council or some other meetings, sometimes it's hundreds and hundreds of pages, isn't it? You know, I think we printed a couple of thousand, didn't we, the other day? So it does all add up, but that is going to be quite a bit over budget by the looks of things. So just be prepared when we ask you for a bit more money for some stamps in March. The other ones down the bottom, which also look like they're fairly precarious, like the electronic support maintenance, subscriptions, and office room hire, they're probably all going to be okay, because they tend to be things that we pay at the start of the year. Usually subscriptions, like the electronic support maintenance, is things like our accounts package, and they're all being paid for this year. So I think they're probably likely to be under or only a little bit over. I think that was all I had to say about that. I don't know whether other people have noticed anything different.
Can I just talk about I know you just spoke about the admin one, but obviously there's August 664. Is that a big bill you're talking about? Because there's nothing in September. It just seems a bit funny that everything else was big.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the other bit was. I'd have to go and look. I'd have to have another look at the records to see what that constituted.
I mean, maybe you get maybe there's one thing that you only charge every 6 months or something, I don't know.
I would have to look.
Okay.
Okay.
How much, I'm looking at the earmarked reserves at the bottom. How much does an election cost, and is 19,789 enough for next year?
No, I mean we're putting this 5,000 in, that we're going to have this assuming that, I mean, it might all go if there's an election to fill the post for Holme Central, so that might go. I mean, it was put in there to top up the earmark. Obviously, we've got lots in general reserves anyway. We need to top it. We need to top it up to about 30,000 is what they recommend. I think last time we didn't spend anywhere near 30,000, but that will be the idea. So we'll probably put 10 more down there.
Okay. Anyone else would like to, or can we note it? Thank you, Richard. It's well done there. And I'll leave you to the next one.
What's the next one about?
The Mumford one.
There's only a couple actually. Most of the most recent ones have already been through finance and management. So it's just two very simple, well, not simple ones, but the one to replace the decal on the water bottle fountain at the toilets.
The sticker.
The sticker thing, yeah. And then the 5,000, which we've just agreed to pay to Hepworth Play Group to fund their playground resurfacing. So this actually enables me to actually pay in physical cash.
Okay, thank you. Would like to comment on that, so can we note it?
No, you have to approve it.
Okay, can we approve it? Can we all proposal? Seconded? All in favour? Yeah, we're happy with that. Okay, thank you. Is this Richard or yourself? This one. No. Okay.
Yes, I think this was the first external audit report that I've done where I didn't have to do it, I didn't make any mistakes, so this was quite nice to get one where they haven't found anything wrong this time. So. And this is basically, it's been up on the notice board for some time, and the council has to basically say if it's okay to take it down. And my personal attitude is that we should keep it on the website for probably 5 years. I mean, we've got to keep it somewhere for 5 years, but it just means, you know, a physical copy in the office. But I think we should keep it on the website for 5 years, and you should allow me to take the paper copy and the notice board down tomorrow.
Agreed? Councillor Dixon, sorry?
Yeah, propose that we do that, and congratulations, Rich, well done.
Yeah. All in favour? Okay, that's proposed. Richard again?
Yeah, I suppose this was just, myself and Jen were just thinking that we better flag up to you about the situation with the budgets and just get you all thinking about how you're going to manage things come the budget. You know, the committee meetings are going to be considering the budgets for their specific budgets, and then we'll be agreeing that F&M, a final budget draft to go to council, and then council will hopefully approve something on the 12th of December. So as it says, we do need to be getting rid of some of our general reserves. We've got a lot more general reserves than we should have. We also might consider what we're going to do with the playgrounds budget. I'm still waiting to hear back from Councillor Greaves gave me some names of some officers to contact. I contacted them today, so I'm just waiting to hear back from them whether they want to do any partnership working with the parish council in terms of co-funding of work on playgrounds in Home Valley. So I'm just waiting for a response to them for that. Even not bearing that in mind, we do have more general reserves than we need. So just be aware of that. It could be that you look into perhaps reducing the charge to members of the community. We'll circulate basically a table that will indicate how much, if we knock £1 off, this is how much you will have to get from reserves, or knock £5 off. So it's just something to be aware of from the debate about budgets over the next few months. And then the other bit, as mentioned, as Councillor Colling has just mentioned, we're anticipating we're going to move money to the elections earmark reserve for about 30,000. So that will take up another 10,000 from the pot. So it will help us a bit in terms of getting the general reserves in better order.
Any points? Councillor Kelly?
Just a question really about what the timelines are. Are all the committees going to discuss the budgets at the next meeting, and then do finance and management then oversee that before it's brought to full council? So that's the process.
Yeah. I suppose it's just a process of recommendation. So the individual committees are recommending to F&M are assembling it. Council can still change stuff. It was still getting. I mean, last year I did it on the fly in the meeting. I can't remember where I were, but I kind of did it on the fly. So I changed numbers while we were actually in the meeting because we were debating about the levels of things. It was about earmark reserves, wasn't it? So yeah, but in terms of the actual process, the next meeting of all the committees will be discussing the budgets of that committee, including staffing and staffing is next, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We just know that, is it? We just know that then, Thank you. Okay, Finance Management Committee. Chair, would you like to do that?
It's self-explanatory. We are recommending to award 10,000 to Home Tech to work on an accessible kitchen. We've got an earmarked reserve for them, but we need the council to approve the spending of an earmarked reserve.
Are you making that proposal?
I am making that proposal.
Can you have a second on that? Okay, all in favour of that proposal? Thank you very much. Chair, would you like to continue?
Also to approve the payment of any grant awarded.
Sorry?
Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry, it's me being pedantic, really. There's a difference between approving expenditure and approving payment. And so the first bit was approving the expenditure, and now so the approving payment is the actual payment of the cash money. So just do that for my pedantic brain.
I propose that we pay.
All in favour?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because quite often it doesn't say we approve to pay, and then I'm like, oh.
Which is this you want for you to?
And then the one, are we on to the constitutional one now? We're on.
Yeah, number 50 on your sheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's basically, and it's ages ago now, I can barely remember this discussion if I'm truthful, but we did think there was a need to draw up a draft constitution for the council, a clarified, sorted out, straightforward, understandable constitution for the council that could be approved on Monday the 22nd of May next year to be the constitution with which we work in the future. And we want to establish a working group to draw this up.
So how this arose was it came up on the on our internal audit report that I had to address the issues that we hadn't got with regard to the transparency code. One of the things that came up was that you said we should have a constitution. I was talking about just kind of knocking up a page thing, but Councillor Carey and Councillor Blacker felt it was more important that we actually sit down and draft a more considered document. And I know chatting by email with Councillor Holme that I think she's been looking at other parish council websites, and what they on their websites they are basically considering the sort of core documents as their constitution. Other parish councils have a separate standalone document that says constitution. So it's kind of a debate that the parish council can have about which you know, whether they want a standalone document or whether they just kind of present the code of conduct and standing orders and scheme of delegation as the constitution.
Yeah, can I just add something to what Richard said? Yeah, so the reason I kind of raised it was I just was a bit nervous about us turning in on ourselves and sort of spending lots of time deliberating about our processes, conscious of how long it takes for some of these things to resolve themselves, and also conscious that the current council term ends in May, so we'd be setting something up for the next council to take forward. But also, I think having, as Rich rightly said, I looked at other parish councils and you know, in the end, it's the constitution covers what is already outlined in our scheme of delegation, our code of conduct, which I've accepted something that's sort of been taken from Kirk Lee's, but actually also the standing orders. And the standing orders and scheme of delegation were comprehensively reviewed only 2.5, 3 years ago. But, you know, in some detail, and there was a lot of discussion about what needed updating and change, and I'm a bit nervous about opening up a process which then we could spend an awful lot of hours, particularly on Clerk and Deputy Clerk's time, reviewing things that I'm not quite sure what value the Constitution gives us, other than ticking that box of meeting what the Transparency Code needs to see. But I would see that the Constitution could be achieved by referencing, you know, the parish council has these documents which outline how it functions, how the committees work, and our financial controls. So I suppose it's just questioning the added value that having a constitution would bring, because I'm not sure actually a constitution, if it was about communicating more effectively with the public what we do, I actually think you don't communicate that through a constitution. You communicate that through more effective, clear information on our website and our wider columns, not just on the document.
Okay.
I do think parish councils are complicated for people to understand, and when you drill into the stuff that we've got, it is virtually impenetrable. So I was second guessing that this constitution, one would make reference to the chapter and verse stuff which we have to have there, which is the stuff that you just referred to, Rachel. But it would put in it would be that document that would almost be a one pager saying, this is what we do, this is our purpose, this is why we exist, and this is how we manage, and just reference those documents. So in my head, I don't see it as an overly complicated thing, but it is something that should be readable by the public to explain what we do and how we run. But I would hope the Reserve like that working group isn't going to go into the process of rewriting the whole rule book. A lot of which we can't rewrite anyway, can we? Because we're bound by legislation. But it's if they're saying to us, we haven't got one, we should have one, then I think we should hear that and try and write one, but we need to not make a meal out of it.
I agree with what Councillor Carroll's just said. I don't think this needs to be a long process, and it's quite interesting kind of debate, parallel debates on the British Constitution. Yes, the stuff is all there in some document, but it would be really, I think it would be really quite useful to bring it together and to just codify it. I think it would help parish councillors as well as, and particularly as we may well have many new parish councillors starting for the next term, as it were. So I don't think this needs to be a huge job. I think it's just to really get on with it and just draw something together and refer to the existing documents.
Okay, Councillor Holme?
I suppose it's just the only comment, I'm not averse to it, but I think we just need to be mindful of the fact that what in one councillor's head is the purpose and function and direction of the council isn't always shared by all the other councillors, and therefore even something that appears very simple in why are we here, what do we do, what are we trying to achieve, actually I think you'd potentially get 23 different responses to that, and actually the legal construct of a parish council is constrained by a whole raft of different things, many of which we do, many of which we don't do and could do if we wish to. So we arguably be reflecting what we have been doing as a parish council rather than necessarily what a future council might wish to do. So I suppose I'm just cautioning the holy grail of simplicity isn't always the case with parish councils, because I think certainly I've found over my spell of time being a councillor that you discover more and more things we could do if we wanted to. But that's all about time, resources, interest, what our community would like us to do, all that sort of thing. So, but I'm not averse to the principle if people want to put it.
Okay, so we need to consider establishment of a working group to draw up a comprehensive draft constitution to submit it at the annual council meeting on Monday the 22nd of May. Would anybody like to volunteer to be on this committee? Councillor Black and Councillor Kelly? What are the relevant types?
Do you feel that's sufficient? Can you
I would prefer more members.
Yeah.
How much time commitment is it?
I hope not much, but we don't know yet, do we?
Can we, what we're better off doing then is just let people think about it, and if you would like to show interest, if you contact the clerk that you're interested in, then names will be put together to organise a meeting. That'll be best.
And then maybe we could ask the two existing volunteers to draw up, to have one session together and draw what needs to be done in their estimated time for doing it.
This is every consultant's actually planning this, is it?
Happy to do.
But what I'm worried is that, what Councillor Hunt was saying, I've just been thinking on you saying, I think you pushed me to get it done for that time, personally. I think if you said a year, 2023, not 2024, I think you'll have more. I think you've got to give yourself more time to get it done properly, I think trying to get it done for maybe this next year, you are pushing it.
It's a page.
Yeah. Yes, I know, but I do appreciate what you're saying, but you've got to put a time scale into it.
Shall we put it on the next agenda for full council as well?
Yeah.
Ask the two people most involved to come back with some sort of.
We
We think this will be involved and we think it will take this long.
Yeah, I would like to think, when I saw this item on the agenda, I thought, oh man, this all sounds like a lot of work. Constitution, it sounds like something massive, doesn't it? But based on what everyone's saying, I think one side, two sides of A4 max, and try and get something just referencing the other things, and make it as basic as you can do, and hopefully it shouldn't be too much work for those involved. Hopefully it's something that shouldn't take too long to sort out.
Okay, well, we'll just say, we'll take that action of council governance, and then we can come back to the next full council meeting and come up with some sort of plan. Thank you. Well, if anybody would like to join into that committee, you let Clark know, and then you can correspond. Mary, would you like to? Just for you, I think.
Right, yes, the item 51, the Home First Master Plan, I'm afraid this is another request to consider a working party. I think probably all councillors will know that there was a grant from the Small Centres Fund of 1.5 million to be spent in Home First Centre, and it is actually very tightly defined. Home First Centre is very tightly defined in the documents. And there is Zoe Stewart, who is the programme manager for small centres, not just the Home First but the other centres across Kirk, is working up some plans. We had one, I think, incredibly productive and open meeting with Zoe Stewart. She was very forthcoming. And we've listed there who those people were, who were me, councillors Carrie, Colin, Hogley and Wilson. So the small nucleus there. We did extend the invitation to all councillors. So it's councillors predominantly from the planning committee, but with the addition of Councillor Carrie. So the initial task for Zoe Stewart and her team is to decide how to spend 1.5 million, which sounds a lot but won't actually go really very far. It is also a capital fund, so there's no expenditure or any revenue activity. So what Zoe and the team are doing are developing what they're calling, I don't like the title, but developing a master plan which will last for 10 to 15 years, because I think that they are very conscious of the fact that you can see the aftermath of various regeneration schemes littered all across many urban areas where money has been given to create something, it's happened, and then there's been no revenue stream or anything to actually maintain it. So the idea of the master plan is that there will be there will be planning for the future, and that the 1.5 million small towns fund, small centres fund, can be used as kind of seed-corn money and kind of lever in additional funding. And as we know, once projects are finished, then local authority officers tend to be moved on to the next project. So our idea was to have a sort of a continuing role for the Parish Council, some continuing role in seeing the delivery of the 1.5 million and the development of the master plan and the execution of the master plan. At the moment, I understand there are no firm proposals as part of the how to spend the 1.5 million. There's going to be further public consultation very soon. I'm not quite sure of the date. So what we're asking from the planning committee is that we set up a working group, let's say, to work in partnership with Kirkley Council, with Zoe and her team, to assist in the development, implementation and monitoring of the Home First Master Plan. We've had, certainly, Deputy Clark's had correspondence with Zoe, who seems very positive about the idea of working in partnership with the Parish Council on this initiative. That's it really. The wording of what I'm asking, what you've asked to consider, kept it deliberately vague because I think there's a lot of positive about determining the terms of reference and the exact membership frequency meeting and so on. The first meeting of the working party. So I guess first of all we need to decide whether this is the way that the council is happy to go in setting up a working party in this way, and then perhaps if the answer is positive, then to decide on the membership at least for the initial meeting.
Okay.
So I guess that's the job.
Yeah, this is something I was pushing for. In my previous jobs, I worked when there was Yorkshire Forward went through a period of creating what they call town teams, which were supposed to survive after regeneration projects and take them forward. And then the government shut Yorkshire Forward, so all the town teams died. We never managed to get off the ground in Dewsbury. But parish councils, I would imagine, are going to be here a long time. They could probably outlive Kirklees if Kirklees gets collapsed in some sort of combined authority. So to have some sort of local champion to look after the interests of the towns in the Home Valley, the parish seemed a perfect place to do that. The other thing that I was always struggled with planning committee as a notion, because a lot of it's reactive to other people's plans that are coming in. And what we've seen this parish council do, which is very unusual because few have managed to achieve this, is to actually be proactive with the neighbourhood development plan. And this is another example of us using our influence really to help shape the town for the future. And I think we need to think about how this might happen in Holme as well, but at the moment there is this little prize fund that's there, and there's a group of people that are going to be writing a plan. And if we don't organise ourselves to influence that, then we're just another stakeholder that which is copied into an email. I think this does give us a chance to be seen as a much more important player, really. So I think it's worth us investing some time into this, and this working group is basically there to see how we can do that. But for me, that's what it's about, to try and protect the interests of the town going forward. And there'll be loads of things that are almost unaffordable on that 15-year vision that somebody's going to have to carry on being the champion for, to get that money in to improve the riverscape in the middle of the town, or knock down the post office, or all the other ideas that are bandied around. They don't go anywhere because nobody's going to take them forward. So for me, that's why I think this would be an interesting thing to consider, and for the working group to report back to the council about what could be done.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment? Councillor Lockwood?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo what Councillor Carey says. I think we're better to be sort of in with Kirklees in the spirit of working with them, rather than just waiting to see what's already decided. So I think it's really positive that that session with Zoe was really engaging, and I think it's an opportunity for us to have a bit of influence, and also use our role within the valley to spread information and make sure that other local groups and bodies are suitably consulted, specifically have an opportunity to help Kirklees get their message out, as well as feeding in what matters to us as parish council. So I'm happy to join the working group.
So can we have some volunteers for this group then, please? Can you?
Do we need to vote on it?
We need to vote for
Well,
this.
it's
Very
first,
group.
really.
Yeah. Or can we approve the group, and then we'll get some volunteers? Yep. Okay. Right. Councillor Holme. Anybody else? Yeah. Give Jim's on the names down here. We can forward names there.
We've got Councillor Humphrey, Councillor Green, Councillor Carey, Councillor Wilson. Do you have your hand up? Councillor Elba.
Okay.
Got a bit more pizzazz than the Constitution.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that, Mary.
Chair, can I just ask, this is sort of for your benefit as well, really. When we do a working group, that we don't necessarily like the clerk's support or the deputy clerk's support, because it's sort of us volunteering to try and look at an issue. So I'm just asking, is Mary as chair of planning willing to at least facilitate that first meeting?
I will facilitate it first.
Very much,
Yeah.
The other good thing about working groups, for your information, is they can meet on Zoom, which committees can't.
And less formal.
Or in a pub. Okay, thank you. Right, the next section, nominations for community champions. Just to quickly explain what community champions is, for the new member, is we ask our councillors are allowed to nominate 2 members of the public or a group for work in the community. It can be past winners. We've had the Home Firth. Sorry?
Councillor Green has been a past winner, as you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been a winner. So, maybe you want to explain. So,
He can tell us about it.
yes. So, we have to nominations again for the 31st of December this year. We have approved a meeting for February where we can Communication Committee will judge the results and pick it, and the winners will be announced on the final meeting of the year. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, at the annual parish meeting.
In May. So the winners will be notified beforehand, but nothing will be publicised until that meeting for obvious reasons. So if you can please have a think about who you'd like to nominate. Try and keep it in the area, you know, people who are deserving. Don't just you turn some meeting one day and we'll put those in. You know, this committee this year, has done, this 4 years have done well. They've chosen good characters and we'd like to keep that work going. So thank you very much for that. Is there anyone else you'd like to come to that when you're out there?
Sorry, Chair, can I just clarify that the awarding will be on 27th of March, which is the annual parish meeting, so it's not
Yes.
May, it's March.
Sorry, March,
I thought you said May. I was just clarifying, because it would mean that this council
We'll
obviously
be
rather than the start.
March, sorry, but with meeting we meet
I
in
meant
February. So that'll be good. Thank you very much. We do have another competition which is we've done it, but we're not publicised yet. We have the Tidy Trader Award as well, which we'll be sending the awards out fairly soon and will be publicised. But that's another yearly competition we do have. So, okay, thank you very much. Additional members to appoint into Publication and Communication Committee. Councillor Trevor Bellamy.
Has requested to join Publications and Communications Committee. And
Often service provision.
No, service provision is about the next one.
it's pubs and commons that councillor.
The service provision refers to youth facilities.
Right. Okay, sorry. So are we all happy for Councillor Bellamy to join the committee? Yeah. Thank you. You let him know. General uniform, but you let him know tonight anyway. Thank you. To consider appointment of Councillor Bellamy as a member of the Public and Communication Public Service Provision Committee.
You've just voted on that.
Yeah, so we're happy with that, okay?
Yeah.
Councillor East, I think this is for you.
Shall I read out the narrative regarding this?
Okay, Councillor East, you can take over then.
At the meeting of Service Provision Committee on Tuesday 19th of September, 6 grant applications for funding from the Youth Facilities budget line were considered, with one referred on to the Finance and Management Committee and 5 granted in principle, each of those 5 being awarded 50% of what was asked for from budget line 4755 Youth Facilities. This meant that £7,918 was committed from the budget of £8,000. Whilst the Service Provision Committee would have liked to fund each application in full, that was not possible from the £8,000 budget. The Service Provision Committee resolved to recommend to full council at this meeting that a further £7,918 be committed from general reserves to fund in full the 5 grants. In recommending this course of action, the Service Provision Committee was aware that a £40,000 earmark reserved to develop playground spaces in partnership with Kirk's Council would not now be called upon, meaning the Council is likely to have significantly more money in general reserves at the end of the current financial year than the 25% recommendation. Only Council can authorise expenditure that would mean the budget line is over budget. The expenditure suggested is reasonable as general reserve holdings is too high. The clerks discussed this matter with the Deputy Clerk RFO, who advises it's not possible to via from the earmark reserve, playground reserve to the budget line 4755 youth facilities. The EMR Playground Reserve Funds will go back into general reserves at the end of the financial year if Council decides to take that course of action. It's possible to overspend from a budget if funds within general reserves allow. The number of grant applications for budget line 4755 youth facilities and the total funds requested demonstrate that there is a community need for the council to meet regarding provision for young people. Chair of Service Provision to report further.
So I think it probably speaks for itself, really, the bit that Jen's just read. If we would have had the funds in the youth provision budget to cover those grant applications, we would have done. And I recommend, I think the Service Provision Committee recommended as well, that the full council approve that action. So if anybody's got any questions?
Councillor Wilson, then Councillor Cameron.
Historically, have we had enough funding in that line for youth? Is this just
I think it was quite a small amount, Andy. I think it used to be about £2,000, was it originally?
is this just a bit of an anomaly then? It's a one-off, or is this?
Well, I think it probably reflects that we need to increase the youth provision budget, but obviously that'll be for the sort of next council to decide, won't it? Or we will actually be able to say that.
What we're doing the budget.
Yeah, we can do on the budget this year to
Yeah.
recommend.
So I think probably, I think that the feeling amongst some members of the Service Provision Committee is that having a bigger youth budget is something that we ought to think about.
Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, when I first joined this council, I think there was a budget line of £5,000, and if I remember correctly, we didn't spend it at all, and that was because we weren't proactive. So I think what's happening now, and you see this through Rich putting stuff on Facebook and things, we tell people we've got grants. The other thing we've seen a lot, and I'm an ex-youth worker, and I know a bit about this because I've been working with some of these groups as well. The council's, in the meantime, shut its youth service, so what you started seeing is the appearance of Cafe 100 was always there, but now what used to happen at the Phoenix Youth Club, funded by the Kirk Police Council, is now effectively a local CIC actually for Melton that deliver that. You've got project communities that appeared further down the agenda that if we'd have known about it would have been on another one for us to decide. So there's basically £20,000 worth of revenue requests for up to 5,000, and we'd only got 8. So I think looking forward, you're going to see more and more of this because there's a dependency on somebody other than Kirk Police Council funding activity, and that's just the direction of travel really. And I do think, you know, I personally will be arguing to increase the budget, but I'd like to think if we've got money in general reserves, we've got some good projects on the table, if there's a way for us to fund them in full by using that, effectively overspending the budget, then I think I'd like to support that tonight.
Yeah, when I joined the council, it was even lower the youth budget. I think it was about 2,000 or 1,000, if it even existed as a budget heading. We didn't give much money out there at all because there wasn't much need for it or demand for it. But as Kirklees budgets get tightened and the budgets are lower, so they're reducing down on the interest coming for us to pay for. And I think it's really important that we do support these projects. We've seen a lot of things on the news, locally, nationally, in the last few weeks about things happening with young people. And it's important that we do we fund these projects to keep them busy and doing things and stuff for them to do, really, stuff and going to do things instead.
Okay, Councillor Rees.
Yeah, I think there's always been that extra demand. Actually, I don't think it's not just about Kirklees moving away from doing detached youth work. Historically, I would have said that there was a lot of unmet demand. The issue really is the fact that we don't have what I would describe as a coherent youth offer in our valley, and haven't had for an awful long time. And offering up annual grants to be bid for, and then to get into a situation where there's not enough money to go around, to me isn't the right answer to it. In respect to this, I think we need to approve this. In terms of setting the budget, I think we absolutely need to move away from grant funding for what I would call the kind of core youth work, Now that wouldn't be the sports stuff that's featured in here, but it would be, if you like, the stuff like the enabling youth work and the Holme youth work and Cafe 100. What Kirklees has funded is the Kirklees Youth Alliance and the local wing of which is the Home Valley Youth Alliance. So there's a third sector lady called Susan Greenwood, who's well versed in youth work. So her job is to help. So she's funded by Kirklees. Her job is to help, if you like, organise and coordinate youth provision. And her specific one of the specific remits is Holme Valley. So she's in a really good position, if you like, to understand the different groups' capabilities and capacities. I would say far more so than perhaps we are. And she's also able to manage and support and assist them in terms of day-to-day operations and working together in a way that we just simply couldn't do. So there is a way forward for us to effectively use the Home Valley Youth Alliance as a mechanism to set up formal regular funding for core youth work. I would suggest that the other stuff then would just be on regular grants. It's questionable as to whether or not, so this is the bit where it depends what grant you're applying for. In the past, there was just one grant process and there were a couple of other modest budgets, but now we've got grants all over. It can be a bit of a complicated landscape. But for example, the Homebridge Cricket Club for equipment, support, training and coaching for junior cricketers, that's under youth provision, which really any other time would have just been a regular grant request for an activity. And I think we probably have seen some under that. So I think there is a big gap in youth provision. It isn't going to be filled by Kirklees. It will be supported by Kirklees, but that's a different. Supported means no activity, just helping to coordinate whatever community activity there is. This kind of activity, it's really difficult to secure regular external funding. And without that regular external funding, you put all your efforts into a cycle of fundraising and grant requesting rather than just getting on and delivering and being able to commit to what you're going to deliver, where and when. So with regular income stream, it can be done. But the kind of scale that we're talking about, I think within Holme Valley area, to make it meaningful, we're probably looking at something in the region of £20,000 a year going into that youth budget, and that is for core youth work. And there are organisations out there that can help. Enabling youth, whilst it's based in Meltham, operates all over, and that's mainly ex-Kirklees youth workers who set up their own CIC to deliver youth work. I think Holme Youth is a relatively recent project, but as I understand it, it's about to lose its youth worker. And there's issues, if you like, regarding how some of those youth workers can be helped and supported, and that's where that Youth Alliance, Susan Greenwood, can come in. And it is very much along. I think sometimes people don't perhaps understand the distinction between running a youth club and what you would call detached youth work. Detached youth work is quite cutting edge. That's the stuff where you might have quite difficult disclosures made by young people. You need to know how to handle it. You can also experience quite difficult behaviours as well. The only way you can do detached youth work is by qualified, experienced youth workers. You can't do it with volunteers. Volunteers might be able to help, but they cannot do it. Whereas running a youth club is a different proposition. What these are doing is not running a youth club. It's about offering that detached youth work. That's why it costs so much money. But I think for the purpose of this meeting, I think we should show support and conjure up the other 8,000. But I think we need to have something far more structured going forward. I think if the council's up for it, I think it'd be useful to have Susan Greenwood come and just talk to us about how she works, what she can do. And if you like, my ideal would be that link between Parish and Kirk and the third sector, and effectively have Susan Greenwood through Holme Valley Youth Alliance coordinate and deliver that for us, and we pay towards it.
Thank you. Councillor Collins first, then Councillor Curry.
I think we should support this specific request, but I think there is a need for us to invest in the whole youth thing in the future. I think, and this seems like the town centre opportunity, and a chance for us to be strategically involved, as well as providing money in answer to pleas from groups. We can have a strategic involvement in what the youth provision in this valley can do. I think it's very important. We should be prepared to put quite a big budget behind it in future budgets.
Thank you. Councillor Curry, then Councillor Blackie.
Yeah, well, please, sorry to speak on this topic again, but just to build on what Charles has said, some councillors might remember we reported back at a previous meeting about a meeting that Jen had attended, me and Charles were there, and there was the Kirklees councillors there, which was called by Brookdale. Brookdale came and spoke to full council about trying to coordinate the youth offer. What's actually come out of that, there's an email which I've been copied into, and Charles has as well, from Susan, who we're talking about, the Kirklees Youth Alliance, where she's trying to pull together those 4 organisations we're talking about to create what she's calling a potential consortium bid. So she's already, and to be honest, this isn't a new idea, because we discussed this time last year at service provision, that wouldn't it be lovely if all the people that needed money worked together. So I think what we're seeing is this year that didn't happen, and we got four or five individual applications. I think in the future, where Susan's at, and hopefully she can manage this and convince them that it's in their interest to work together, to get a joined up youth offer with project communities, Cafe 100, enabling youth and Holme youth. There is some little outliers. I found one last week which I didn't even know was there. There's a Bulldale Youth Club's been meeting in Bulldale Methodist Church forever, but they just literally take money out of a cash tin and just run it with volunteers. You know,
Can I ask you to jump short on it, because we are going to be running out of time.
Well, the point is, I think what Charles was talking about and what Pat's talked about, I think that will emerge very quickly, but I think we as a parish should encourage that. But to get us over the line this year, if we can release that money, at least it keeps those groups in business while we sort our town.
Just, I mean, I'm fully in support of what Councillor Greaves has said, but I think this kind of points up the fact that there is no mechanism, I think, in the parish council itself to decide on priorities. I think we have come to some kind of understanding that youth is going to be a priority, but I don't think we ever have that meeting or ever have that discussion when we decide these are our priorities X, Y and Z. There is the stuff in the neighbourhood development plan and in the climate emergency plan, but apart from that, I think it's not something we do address. So I think that's a bit of something that's actually quite lacking in the mechanism of the way this parish council works.
Yeah, I just want to make, I'm supportive of all the things suggested, but I would suggest that we ask service provision to look in more detail at what Councillor Greaves has proposed when they're considering their budget, so that when it comes back to full council, there's a proposal of a certain level of funding that would support that approach. Obviously, and I think there was a suggestion that Susan Greenwood, if that was her name, could be invited to a meeting. So I'd just encourage the chair of service provision to make that happen.
Okay.
Not full council, but service provision.
Yes.
That's the committee that looks after it.
Thank you. So, right, in terms of proposal, being your proposal is shown up.
So I'll read it out. So the first one is to consider the approval of expenditure from general reserves for the award of grants as follows. £2,387.50 for Holme Youth, that's Holme Village Community Trust, towards training workshops for young people. £500 for Holme Firth Arts Festival towards training for young music makers. £405 for Holme Bridge Cricket Club, for equipment to support training and coaching for junior cricketers, £2,479.50 for enabling youth and motocross CIC towards youth club provision, £2,146 for Cafe 100 towards running costs and staff wages for youth club provision. So, shall we vote on that one first before we go to the next one?
Yeah, we've had a proposal, we seconding that?
Yeah.
All in favour, please show hands. Thank you, passed.
So the second one is to consider, subject to approval being given in the motion above, approval to pay the grants as detailed in the above motion from general reserves.
I second that.
Second, all in favour, show hands. Thoughts?
So that's from the play areas, wasn't it? From the, was it from the play areas budget?
No.
No,
Oh, did you
it's
say
from
that?
general reserves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Right, the next section. A grant application received on email on the 17th of May 2022 from Project Community requesting a grant of £1,950 from budget line 4755 youth facilities to fund sport provisions for girls. This should have been presented to the full Service Provision Committee meeting on Tuesday 20th of September but was unfortunately missed. Project Community received a grant for Spring Summer 2022 and successful meeting need in the Holme Valley. The pink pages Q on your paperwork. The next Service Provision Committee meeting this cabinet will consider is on Monday 7th of November. However, there is no money within this budget and the Utility Committee to consider the grant. It will be needed to refer to the full council. Therefore, the council is asked to consider this grant application from general reserves. Right?
Yeah, so apologies to project communities and to service provision into the council for I just missed that application. So chasing so many, I'm afraid, in August, that one just slipped through the net. When I realised it, I got in touch with them. They provided all the paperwork, which I'm quite happy to share with the chair service provision, and the application is for £1,950, and again it would have to come from general reserves because there's no money now in that budget.
Any comments or can we have a proposal? Councillor Kelly. So we need to keep very quick as I said we're out of time.
The main question on this, I know they relocated from, I think it was the Phoenix Centre to New Mill, and then they said they were working with the school. So what I wasn't sure about when I read this, but I think I'm pretty sure I know the answer reading between the lines. This isn't school-based activity, is it? This is out of school, because they talk about people paying £2 and they said they're going to do it in Hanford. I just want to be clear that this isn't just enhancing the school curriculum activity by them going into school and working with people in the school. So it feels like a separate youth club, not just an expansion of the school curriculum.
No, it is separate, and the group's already up and running. They've got 25 girls signed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not.
It's not an after-school club.
No, it's a school that's being used as a base.
Yeah, I think that's
Councillor
what I
Dixon?
understood by it.
I think it's about the project for the holidays. I think for me, it actually explains to me now what was going on across the road from my house and summer holidays. And I thought, are the kids all first on holiday? And then like, there's kids all playing out on the playing fields. What's going on? So the grant application itself, it's a bit. I mean, I don't know if it's a bit vague. There's not much detail to it about what actual events they're going to be doing and what they're going to be doing. Like, it seems like it's been a bit much filling it in, so it doesn't really tell the details of the events and what they're doing, but the kids were playing out in the summer holidays there, so I don't know if this is for half term or when they're planning on doing it. We could do a bit more. I don't really want to turn it down, because it does sound like something quite good for the community and for the kids who are involved, but at the same time, I don't know really what we're approving without further detail.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Councillor, please?
Yeah, I kind of share Councillor Dixon's concerns about the detail on it. There is another CIC, there's in Meltham, just working in Meltham, normally called Project Sport, and they get some holiday funding from Kirk to help them.
It's the same people. This is. Project Communities is Project Spell. Yeah.
Can we have a conversation with the council?
So they get some funding from Kirk, they run summer groups. This is a bit, so again, I think in view of the other ones that were fronted to fund this also, but this is perhaps a really classic example of where I think Susan Greenwood and Home Valley Youth Alliance could really help us shape a meaningful policy in terms of what youth service is important, what it's going to actually deliver, what goals it's going to achieve, how that works for something that's a bit more structured. But that's not going to happen within the next few months. So, whilst I shared Councillor Dixon's concerns, I would say go ahead and make this payment. But I think to me this is where, if you like, Parish contracting it out to Kirklees Youth Alliance would make a lot of sense, not just for the Parish Council, but also in terms of that cohesive offer.
We need to make a motion to continue the meeting for another 15 minutes. Are we all in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, you've heard the situation now, we need to make a decision. We're running out of time. Do we want to delay this application to the next full council, or do we want to accept it?
Go for it.
I'm happy to accept it.
Can we have a proposal, please? Can you make a proposal?
I'd like to propose that we accept it, yeah. I do think we could investigate it further, but I'm absolutely sure they'll be using the money to work with
Okay.
the
Seconder? Councillor Collins, all in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, thank you very much.
Can we ask them for feedback on the actual project?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, is this one for Councillor Holme?
Oh, sorry. That's the next one.
The Finance Committee on Wednesday 28th of September has credited 3 applications under the Community Access Budget 4315. On reflection, all 3 applications were not better than the Subvention Control and the Climate Emergency Committee. All the council can authorise via the Climate Emergency Standing Committee is expected to be meeting on the 4th of October to recommend council.
Okay, yeah, I can feedback. We can, I guess, with the first one, because the committee was not minded to recommend to full council that the Fair and Funky grant was awarded on the basis that we didn't think it was sufficiently connected to the climate emergency. We're not quite sure how that works, whether full council can therefore give it.
Well, it's just withdrawn.
Just withdrawn, okay. But for the next 2, yeah, we felt that the request from Hepworth United, this was to allow them to, they've already put solar panels in on their clubhouse, that's the best word, and they want to get some solar batteries, which then allows them to store some of the energy which they generate from solar panels, which seems an incredibly sensible and logical step, and this would allow them to do it. So Finance and Management had already authorised £2,500 and from their grants budget, and this is to ask full council to allow another £2,500, which then brings it to the £5,000 they want to pull together from us, if possible, from the budget line from Climate Emergency 4815 Energy Strategy, where we have the funds available and the Climate Emergency Committee would wish so to do. So
Is that a proposal?
that is a proposal, yeah.
All in favour? Passed. Thank you.
Okay, the second one is about Bulldale Community Association. This was the purchase and installation of 2 new boilers. And again, the Climate Emergency Committee felt this did fit with the energy strategy, which is all about moving both to renewable means of energy, but ultimately using less energy. And the very old boilers that we were told about need replacement and would be far more efficient than the current ones by reducing the fossil fuels equivalent to make them happen. Sadly, they are still gas boilers, but the reality is that other boilers are not currently available that could meet the demands of an old building like the Bulldale. So, The Climate Emergency Committee would like to ask that £5,000 is wired from our energy strategy budget line 4815 to make that contribution to Bulldale Community Association.
Do we have a second for that? Councillor East, all in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Holme. Okay, for upcoming events, to lay poppy wreaths at participation in Roman services sessions in Holme Valley. And also to note, it's an expenditure of £134 on 8 poppy wreaths. So can we have representatives for the poppy laying, please? Councillor Bellamy, Holbridge? Yeah? Councillor Collins, you can't do the ones,
I
you?
can't do it, probably I'm away.
So, Councillor Mary, Councillor Becker, are you able to do the parish church one?
The Parish Church one.
The one of the Bulgarians? So, because I'm working on the Sunday, so I
Oh, I
can't.
see. Right.
Yeah, or if not, Councillor Hockley.
No, that's fine, I can do it.
You
now.
know, we also need representatives at the church possibly on that, for the parish church as well. So, if you can do your own area, you please let the clerk know as soon as possible, and then she can organise getting the meat stickers and stuff like that. But obviously, somebody needs to.
We need somebody for Holme, unfortunately.
Is this November the 13th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good. Thank you very much.
Good.
Right, so let's just go through them.
I'll reply to the invitation to the British Legion, I'll copy you in.
Thank you.
So, the...
Sorry? Upper Folk, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah.
Mary's doing the Noble Gardens.
Yeah, so Brookdale. Petworth.
Thank you, Tom.
Do you think your dad will do that with you? Or?
Yeah, that is about, yeah. Should be able to.
Netherthorne?
Well, I did that last year, but obviously I
Yeah.
can't do 2 places at once, so.
Is there any chance can somebody do cover Neverthorne for Mary this year, please?
What time's it at? Is it?
Well, last week was 10:50. So ceremony at the War Memorial, followed by a service in All Saints Church.
The other one's at 9:30 time.
Yeah, no, I can do the apple one and then rush up there, but no, I don't really.
I think perhaps we might ask Councillor Roberts if she's able to do it. I was going to suggest that anyway, but.
We send an email out across the whole council, there might be some people who are not here today who can maybe do it.
Yeah. And UMill.
But that's not like council for council
Council
or hall, you might work best for the liaison with them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did we get up with that one?
Yeah. Okay, is there any items in the agenda that we would like to publicise? Apart from welcoming the new councillor?
Grants, yeah.
Grants.
I think we'd held off on the youth grants because we were waiting for this meeting, weren't we? So,
Yeah.
so I guess that's the story.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Been a productive meeting. And as I say, if anybody wants to have a quick look at the entrance for the Christmas card competition, we are in the office. We've got some documents to sign. And,
See you.
thank you very much.